Hi, the Mudbrooker here. Today I'm going to show you this little dealie that I got for 20 bucks at a Goodwill. That is a Farberware electric broiler, but I'm not going to use it in quite the way that it was intended. Before I get started though, I would like to thank my channel members: The Needy Homesteader, Grampy Lobster, Mr. Smith's Kitchen, S.W. Heatley 27, Ron Thompson, Loretta Comer, Billy Lee Lawhan, Dennis Fott, Karen Neal, Richard from Canada, Mel Good, Life with Crystal Rose, Mia New Acres, Mary Ranch, Rachel Tremblay, Beagle Mama, Greg Boone, Morwenna Thieker, Linda Jasper, Linda Neff, and our newest channel member, Fred Revels. Today I'm going to have a little drink of that homemade apple honey whiskey that I got from a feller down in New Zealand in a convoluted international trade. Here's to you guys, and your support is greatly appreciated. Oh, that stuff is so good. But anyway, like I said, I got this for 20 bucks at a secondhand store. It was a Goodwill, and it's an electric broiler. It's got all the bells and whistles with it. It has a rotisserie motor. Move my camera around a little bit here. It's got a rotisserie motor and a spit. I'll take that off for the moment. And a spit. I can also make shish kebabs. It's got a rack for the skewer. Take that off. And it'll rotate the skewers, which is pretty cool. Let me take a couple more little bits and pieces off of here so I can strip it down. But what I'm actually going to do with this, now I have used this as it's intended to be used with the electric element in there, and it made a nice little roast. It turned out good. I marinated it with some marinade I got at the store. Wasn't terribly impressed with the marinade itself, but the way the meat cooked was really fantastic. Let me take this off and set it aside. It's got a grill on top if I want to grill things, but I don't need that. And you can see there's the electric element in there, and that simply lifts out. Take this little piece out, and what I'm going to do is use the rotisserie and the roasting spit to make a roast over on my cook stove. I got that all fired up and ready to go. We'll get this here set up, and I'm just going to use this part of the roaster. I don't need the drip pan and the legs for it. But I'm going to use this part of the roaster and the rotisserie unit to spit roast a little beef roast over an open eye on my cook stove, and that should be quite the fun deal. Let me do a little bit of setting up here, and I'll be right back. I have a little rump roast here, and I'm going to do this very simply. I'm just going to salt and pepper it and put it on the spit. When I used this before with the electric element, I marinated it overnight, but I wasn't really all that impressed with the marinade I used, but the meat turned out really good, so hopefully on the cook stove it'll be even better. So what I'm going to do, I've patted this dry. I'm going to stab it a little bit with a knife, just poke it in there a little bit. Flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. I'm not stabbing all the way through, I'm just kind of stabbing in, quarter inch, half inch or so. And I'll give it a good sprinkle of pepper. Good sprinkle of salt. And rub that in. And hopefully scrub it into the little holes a little bit. I'm going to flip it over and salt and pepper the other side. Get that rubbed in. I'm going to throw a little bit on the plate and get my edges. Now, I'm going to try and find more or less the middle of the roast and stick a knife in there to get a hole started. for the spit. And hopefully it'll come out right. Get my spit, take the little holder off the one end, and where'd my spot go where I stabbed it? Oh, come on, you. I can't find the hole I just made. There it is. And stab the spit through. There we go. Get her held down there. Put my end on her. And that is ready to go onto the rotisserie. Now, something I noticed when I set this up earlier just to check things out is that the weight of the motor is a little bit heavy on one end of this, and it wants to kind of tip it up like that. So I'm going to put a little bit of a counterweight on the other end. And for that, I got a little number 3 skillet and a piece of iron. I'm going to stick that in there, and then use this little chunk of iron for a lock to wedge it in place. Alrighty, that's ready to go. I'm going to set up over by my stove and carry things on from here. I've got a nice fire going in the stove. I don't want a lot of flame. I want mostly coals, and this is burned down pretty good. It's going to be a bit of a challenge to keep my fire going the way I want it without a lot of flames, but I have some short little chunk pieces that I'll feed in the back, let them burn down the coals a bit, and pull them forward as they burn down so I have coals underneath my meat. So, open up the stove, and I've already lost half of my parts. There we go. I will set this over the fire. Now, it's a little bit bigger than the actual opening, you can see right there. But as long as I keep the meat centered up over the hole, any dripping should fall into the fire, and it shouldn't be too much of a problem. I need this one on this end for the motor. Need this one on the other end. And I can adjust the height on that. I'll grab my roast, which is just out of the way over here. Set that on there, and that looks like it's pretty well where I need it to be. Grab my motor, got the motor there for the rotisserie, slide him on, get it engaged with the spit, plug it in, flip the switch, and away we go. I'm going to grab my camera off the stand here. Alright, and there's that roasting over open coals. I'll probably lower that down a little bit more. See there, you can see the motor. But everything should work out pretty good. I'm not sure how long this will take. It took about 2 hours on the electric, but you know, the temperature isn't going to be quite as steady on this. So I will let this here start roasting up. And I might need to slide it down just a little bit, but we'll see how she goes, and I'll be back later, check it out, and see how everything goes. Okay, we've been cooking for about an hour now, and it's cooking along. It's still pretty soft, you know, I mean, it's nowhere near done. Probably take another hour and a half, 2 hours maybe, I don't know for sure. But my fire's been going pretty good. It seems to work nice, just pulling coals forward. And I got some little short chunks, you know, just feed them in the back and let them burn down, and then pull the coals forward. And I'm not really getting any smoke in the house. What I'm going to do now is, I got some butter up here in my warming oven, nice and melted. I'm going to baste this a little bit with some melted butter. kind of dab that on there. I don't want to wash my salt and pepper off, but it should stick pretty good. I'm just going to baste this up and let her keep on cooking. Like I said, I'm not even going to check the temperature on this yet because I know it's got quite a ways to go. Just dab a little bit of melted butter on there. And this should be good by the time it's done. I'll see you a little later once we get closer to being done. It's been 2 hours, and man, that is looking nice. Just going by touch, it's firming up pretty good, but I think it's still got a ways to go. It tastes nice too. But I'm going to check it anyway just to see where I'm at. What I'm looking for is an internal temperature of about 140 degrees. That puts it kind of between medium rare and medium. Find a good spot to poke that. There we go. And right now I'm at about 130. So it's got a little ways to go yet. Probably another half hour, 45 minutes, kind of hard to say. Turn that back on. I'll baste them again. My fire's doing good. I got one piece that's a little bit long, got a little fire going, but it's not right under the meat. And this is a pretty lean piece of meat, so I haven't been getting a whole lot of drippings off of it. But you can see the fat is starting to render down nice. And I think another 45 minutes, an hour at the most, this will be done. And we can cut her up and see what we got. I almost forgot to mention this. This little kind of piece of meat here was starting to flop. I got it stuck on this side with the skewers on the spit, but up on top, this piece here is just kind of flopping loose, so I stuck a skewer through it just to make sure it didn't eventually work itself off of there. Alright. I just checked the temperature on this, and this is done. So what I'm going to do is get everything torn down and take this over to the counter. I got a couple little side dishes. I got some carrots and sweet corn that I canned up earlier this year. Have them for the sides. Get everything over on the counter, and we'll tear into this. This has been resting for about 5 minutes. I took the other prong off, and now let's get the skewer off of there. Cut into it and see what we got. Center it up on the camera a little bit for you. Come on, you. There. That's just the way I like it. Still pink, but it's not raw. Nice and warm inside. I have some carrots and corn over here, just off camera. Get a little bit of those. Got the corn. Let me grab some carrots. And I got a little bit of that melted butter left, so I'll pour that on my corn and my carrots. Cut off a couple more slices of meat. And we'll give it a taste test. Now this is a cheap cut of meat. This is just a, like I said, it's a rump roast. I think I said it was a rump roast. It is a rump roast. And it's fairly lean tough piece of meat, but that came out nice and tender. Cooked it nice and slow. Took about 2 hours and 45 minutes to get her all the way done, and it tastes just fantastic. That really impressed me how well that turned out, doing it over the cook stove with that rotisserie. What I'm going to do is I'm going to eat my supper, get everything cleaned up and put back together, then I'll come back and I'll wrap this video up. Alright, I'm going to wrap this video up. I didn't wash anything, I just put this all back together. And did a little quick looking around on the internet if you're interested in a electric rotisserie. The new ones are all enclosed. They're kind of like a toaster oven with a rotisserie inside of them. But if you look on eBay for a Farberware open hearth electric broiler, there's quite a few of them I found just in a real quick look. I didn't see any that had the shish kebab rack on them, but there were a lot of different ones, you know, different states of completion. Most of them were complete. They had the rotisserie. There's a couple of different styles of the little arms that hold the spit up, but most of them all had the broiler grate, you know, and the heating element and all of that. And they cost anywhere from 60 to 110, 120 bucks a piece. The prices are kind of all over. So if you look around, you can find one that has more or less complete, you know, and they're not hard to find. So I'm really tickled with this thing. Even just using it, you know, with the electric element, it did really well. But doing it over the cook stove was just fantastic. There's nothing like meat cooked over an open fire, and there's just no way that you can beat that. And if you have a cook stove and you get one of these, you know, you saw all I had to do was take an eye off, set it up over the eye, and away I went. I'll do a chicken on this eventually. I noticed on the eBay listings they had racks for doing like racks of ribs. You know, they had a basket that goes on the spit, you know, goes on the spit, so you can do a flat rack of ribs on it, and that'd be pretty cool. Maybe someday I'll find some of those separate. And anyhow, there you have it, sitting over there. Beef roast, spit roasted over a wood cook stove using parts of an electric rotisserie broiler. And like I say, if you want one like this, you can find them on eBay, and I'm sure the new ones are kind of nice, but you wouldn't be able to use something like that over a fire. Well, that's it for the video. If you have a cook stove, I recommend finding one of these, or at least enough parts of it, at least the bottom part and the spit, and go to town with it. Because I know I am. I'm going to use this for quite a few different things. Anyhow, that's my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. And if you're so inclined, go ahead and join the channel. Talk to y'all later. Goodbye.